Welcome, welcome, welcome to this online healing retreat video stream. We are all here in this group, in our collective, ready to be empowered during this great time. I know all of us are feeling this deep call to step up in a huge way. When we see the old paradigm literally dissolving and crumbling, it gets a little itchy around the edges for so many of our family members and loved ones. And this is really the call for us to step up and be the leader in new ways, in new ways. And so we're going to do that today with Kaia. And these are the divine Christ feminine empowerments to really literally keep us going in a flow of positive new earth creation and literally rooting out some of the things that have kept us from moving forward in the ways that we want to move forward. So Kaia, welcome, welcome, welcome. You are bringing forth the Sophia code transmissions with these empowerments today.
Yes, thank you. It's such an honor to be here. I just love this new platform that you're offering, Loren. It's really special that we all get to see each other and feel each other across the heart waves. And to step into divine feminine Christ leadership together, that's how we're going to make it easier for one another, is by flying together, by embodying Christ consciousness together. The collective field makes it easier, more fun, and more expansive on an accelerated pathway that we can all sustain because we're doing it together as a family of light. So thank you for calling us all together today, together as a family of light, in this great purpose ahead of us for 2018.
Well, thank you for playing in this way. Again, it couldn't be a better time. I know that already, even though we're not in 2018 just yet, many of us are really birthing new things. And even though this year was a 1 year, seems like next year it's an 11 year, a 2 year, but it's an 11 year. That is so powerful because it really is the ascension gateway that allows us to be in this divine connection in these ways, in this Christ consciousness way. Now, before we get started, we can chat a little bit about what you and I were chatting about yesterday as we were testing this little video. And what's very interesting is you and I both, and so many of us out there, still have these programs that keep us from being the best that we can be and rooting them out. And we're going to do some healing on that. But one of these, when we come together in unity, some of the old programs that come up still are competition and judgment. And this is when we really have to support each other and be strong for one another in unity, right? So even if we share our ideas, we have to get rid of these competitive fears, these old programs that keep us from moving forward because we're thinking, oh, that's a competitive program. So can you share a little bit about this? It really means being vulnerable. Even a video like this, it's really kind of vulnerable. It feels very weird in a sense.
I don't think it's ever not vulnerable when we step forward to be seen, especially in this age of technology. There's just such a constant access to one another through social media and through online platforms that I think a lot of people who step into leadership, it can feel intimidating because you don't know where the line is between your personal life and your public life. And what's really, oh, there goes all the lighting in my house. Okay. Hi, Mercury retrograde.
I know, but you know what? It's beautiful and it's still really good. So
okay. Sorry guys, maybe if I turn this way, it'll be a little, nope. Wow. Well, anyway, so what was I saying? So when with that line blurred, I think when people look at leadership in this modern age, there's a real undercurrent of a concern of, well, do I get anything left for me at the end of the day? And the reality is that leadership in this modern age and leadership through divine feminine Christ leadership, it's always on. And I think that's why people are intimidated by leadership. It's because it asks you to walk the walk and walk your talk every day, not just when the camera's on, but when you're at home with your family or with your loved ones or your neighbors or at the grocery store, you know, when nobody's looking. And where is your spirituality? Where is it, the rubber really hitting the road? And I think with social media and all of our online platforms, it can feel as though we don't really ever get any downtime from being the leader or the teacher. But the good news with divine feminine Christ consciousness is all of your feelings and all of your growing learning curves and uncomfortable edges of growth are a part of your leadership. You get to be human. You actually have to be human to be an effective divine feminine leader. You can't, this is not the age of Pisces, this is the age of Aquarius. We're doing this together as the one body of Christ, not just one Christed figure, all of us stepping into our Christ consciousness, all of us stepping into our higher self-embodiment. So that's, in essence, it actually takes us off the hook to step into Christ consciousness in this way, because you can't embody Christ consciousness in a real way unless you're really being human. And you're really loving yourself and you're really being honest with all of your feelings and all of your growth curves, not just with yourself, but with everybody else around you. And I think as far as speaking to what you were offering about a competition piece, it's the same thing. Okay, so what? So what? Humanity is hardwired to compete and compare ourselves to one another. It's like, okay, so what? Can that just be there? And can we love ourselves through that? And then take it one step further through the remembrance that the good news that Sophia God has given to us through the Sophia Code is we've all been created completely equal in our sovereignty and our divinity. And that key code configuration of each of our souls is that Sophia has an incredible destiny and important plan for each and every one of us to be a unique embodiment of the divine. Everyone's equally divine, everyone's equally sovereign, and we're all given these extraordinary gifts that fit together like puzzle pieces. And one of my, and when those puzzle pieces come together, because we all show up to our own expression of divine feminine service and our offering, which is always going to be different for everyone. It's not always going to be in front of a camera under a spotlight. I consider people who are supporting movements or businesses or other leaders who are being in the spotlight just as much leadership. It's just as much leadership because they have to step into the truth of their gifts and talents to be able to show up in their highest potential, to be a part of something that's bigger than just them. You know, this is me showing up to something way bigger than just me. When I show up in front of this camera, I'm showing up on behalf of an entire team of spiritual guides, as well as all the people that believe in me and that are working on this movement with me. And I don't consider any of them any less than me. I can't do what I'm doing without them showing up every day and them in their leadership. So the good news is that when we're all working together as the one body of Christ, what happens is we actually ascend beyond competition, the limitations of competition, and we ascend into this, what I call the honeycomb heart transmission, where we all are able to identify on a cellular, like very heart-centered space, that we're all designed to be the queen bee of our own life. You and I are all the queen bee of our own reality. You are the star of your own movie. I mean, if you go within and really be honest with yourself, there's nobody else starring in your movie other than you, right? You can think it's somebody else, but you're always the one that's in the very center of your universe that you are. That makes you the queen bee of your reality. And Sophia designed it to be that way. If we are all holograms of her, how could it be any other way? And yet, because she made us these beautiful holographic souls, made in her image and likeness as a divine mother, creatrix, and birther, we're also honeybees within the sacred heart of Sophia. We're all working together for the honey, the nectar of our divine mother's love. Because when we all ascend into whatever leadership role of being seen in our divine feminine service, we're all busy helping Sophia make the honey for humanity. The joy, the happiness, the relief, the miracles, the good news. You know, when you look at people, I've had the good fortune of being around a lot of successful people over this past 2 years. And, you know, people that are fantastically successful and wealthy and healthy and strong. And, you know, I think a lot of people that struggle with their spirituality for years, trying to get a handle on how do I integrate my higher self-consciousness with my relationship with God and still be a human. Once you do that long enough and you achieve a certain measure of success, what I have found universally is that people who are embodying their higher self and doing really well at it, all they want to do is serve. You know, there's usually, after you get enough zeros in your bank account, they don't even, it's not that they don't care about money, it's just that they get it. The money is there for the service. It's to support them in their greatest potential. So really, when we ascend into our highest potential, when we step into a leadership offering, whatever that might look like, that puts you in a position where you start to really make sense of your life, have a lot of strength and balance in your life, and maybe even success, what you begin to ascend to, you begin to ascend beyond competition. You're just like, wow, man, this game is exciting. How do I get involved with other players that are playing at the same level so that I can serve even more people, so I can be even more a part of God's plan to prosper all beings? So really, the energy and the vibrational reality of competition, it's just an earth-based ego structure vibration. But if we allow ourselves to invoke that Christ consciousness of our higher self to be filling us every day of our life, that's my prayer. Make me a vessel of Sophia's grace. Fill me with the hope of my own Holy Spirit, my own Buddha light. May I be a honeybee for the nectar of Sophia God's honeycombs. You know, it's just like, use me, God. And then it's just like, oh, I get to be playing with Lorraine Gailey on her platform. It's just like, yay, I get to be connecting with all these wonderful people in your community who are also leading in their own ways in their community. All I feel is the honeycomb. All I feel is dripping honey. All I feel is the joy radiating out from my heart. You know, and the more and more people that I touch through the codex, it's just, everything is service. And that's why divine feminine leadership is so much fun. What you finally realize at one point along this journey is, oh, I get it. My healing is everybody's healing. My joy is everybody's joy. My showing up is showing up for everybody. Showing up to myself is the same as showing up to everybody else. And this is why we adore masters like Mary Magdalene and Jesus and Mother Mary, is because they lived in that infinity loop where they completely understood service to my own heart will eventually lead to service to all beings. And there's no line in the sand between the joy of both of those things when they merge as one. Honeycomb, heart star transmission, joy, joy, joy. And not like some cliche, happy, happy, joy, joy. Like yesterday I made a post on Facebook, and I remember thinking, why am I doing this? I have like 6 meetings to get to. And I was sitting in my living room, and this golden light came over me. And this golden light was from all the people in the world that were doing their deal, that were living their prayer, that were inside this, hi Kitty, that was inside this joyful service transmission. And they were sending me like, hey, we're doing this. And I was like, hey, you are doing this. And I just stopped, and I felt that golden joy of Sophia for all of her divine children being in community as the one body of Christ, living their prayer out in this crazy world. And this message just flowed through my fingers into Facebook, into the virtual universe of Facebook. And and it was just so effortless. It was just coming from the center of my heart. It wasn't some contrived, I'm doing my divine feminine leadership prescription for the day. And I think that's part of it. I think people with leadership, when people think about leadership, they're wondering, oh, well, does this mean I have to get up and do all these things and try to always be positive? It's like, no, to be yourself. And you can also wait and allow the inspiration. You can allow for the inspirations of whatever you call God. I call God Sophia, to flow through you at that divine timing when it's a real natural embodied expression of your joy, or an embodied expression of whatever you're feeling that you know God is asking you to share. You know, it's not always the joyful expressions that Sophia is asking me to share as a leader. During the Me Too campaign, I can't believe what the rage that was flowing through my body while I wrote my post for the Me Too campaign. And it was a righteous rage. It was a righteous rage declaring what I want through divine love for our future generations based on what I've survived. So it's like divine feminine leadership is simply asking us to be brave enough to lead by being our truest selves.
You said it. Brave enough to do it no matter what. And that is really stepping in. Thank you for that. When you were in the center of your heart, you were in the flow and it was effortless. And that's a beautiful reminder that we are in that space and to be in that space. We're going to do a quantum healing session with you. And before we start, it would be wonderful to chat a little bit about ways that it's almost like a gentle way that we have to come forward as leaders. We can't fight. The word resistance is coming up a lot in the mainstream from people who are very frustrated. And so, I mean, even just this morning, I was chatting with a friend who's going through a lot of change. She's opening up to spirituality, and she's caught in blaming everyone and everything. So as we talk about stepping into these leadership roles, help us understand ways that we can do it with grace and being magnetic instead of having to be right or forcing our opinion, or, you know, because when someone is in one belief system saying, oh, it's worse and it's going to get worse and I'm fearful for my future, we have to slowly unravel that gently. So some advice here would be wonderful.
So, yeah, the Sophia Code journey of Divine Feminine Christ Initiations actually walks you through that journey of allowing the ego structure to soften to the direction of your higher self. So what's happening when somebody's having a spiritual awakening is they're opening to the possibility that there's a divine operating system for their consciousness that can lead their human awareness. That's what's happening. And the ego structure will only integrate that through successive stages of letting go. So if somebody's just getting on their spiritual path, they're not going to get to the full embodiment of their higher self overnight. Every activation cycle, what happens is you decide to wake up a little bit more, which activates more of your stuff to get triggered and released, resolved, reconciled, forgiven, if you have the willingness to work through it. But then there has to be an integration cycle. We talk about this in the Sophia Code curriculum, foundational curriculum a lot. There's got to be a period of both activation and then integration. So then what happens is after all the light switches go on, maybe you have a spiritual high, maybe you have some big spiritual mystical experience, but then you've got to integrate the new ideas. And you've got to integrate how much your ego structure just let in your higher self. Okay, because your ego structure for a while has claimed all the territory and the real estate of your human awareness in your body, right? It's like, mine, this is mine, because its job is to keep your body safe. So there's nothing wrong with the ego structure. We talk about this in the Sophia Code curriculum all the time. We're not here to kill the ego. We're not here to bury it. We're not here to stick a knife in its face. We're here to love it. We're here to invite it to the softening. That's why we talk about Kuan Yin's water a lot, the softening, because the ego structure is just, it's pretty basic technology to keep a human body safe. You just need to love it through the process. It's been keeping you safe the best way it knows how. And then all of a sudden you get some big ideas about spirituality. It's like, hey man, I've been in control here for so long. Who's this other person, your higher self? I don't know if your higher self can keep me safe. So you've got to do this negotiation process. Well, what if we let 10% more of the higher self come in? Just for today, just to see ego structure. If you'd like to relax a little bit, maybe go sip a Mai Tai on the beach of my mind and take a little vacation so that our higher self can come in and take care of you. Maybe take a little bit of load off your shoulders. Eventually you can negotiate percentages up to like 100%, depending on how, you know, how aligned you are with this prayer that day. Now, and so what happened for me when I started channeling the Sophia code, because my ego structure was just like through the roof, did not want me to channel the Sophia code. Why? Because it was going to change everything. It was an invitation into my greatest empowerment. And the ego structure is definitely afraid of our greatest empowerment, because it means we're always going to change and we're always going to have to expand. The ego just wants you to stay the same. It doesn't want you to expand. It doesn't want you to change. It doesn't want your circumstances to change, because what if it gets worse, not better? You know, it's like a little kid. So you've got to be the divine parent, the divine mother, the divine father, the inner mother, the inner father to this ego, this at times very wounded ego structure, to kind of gently walk it along. And as you do, it creates space for your higher self to come in and begin to show you, okay, the ego structure can only operate at a certain level on the earth plane, but check this out. Check out what my heavenly conscious can help your human awareness do in a much easier way today, right? And so then the ego structure starts to learn how to trust your higher self-consciousness in successive stages of integrated realizations that the higher self has access to a lot more money, power, goodness, love, great food, opportunities, networking, career choices than you could ever possibly make up through the control of your ego structure, because your higher self has an omniscient vision. Your higher self is continually in communion with Sophia God. So you just gotta like talk your ego off the cliff a bunch, like for a while. And you know, and I just want to say, like, I'm sorry, but I don't really think, I think if you're here in the earth plane, there's always going to be some level of the ego structure that you get to dance with. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a really, really amazing gift. I mean, you got the gift of your body. So what? So you have to, you know, dance with this ego structure for most of your life. And it's always going to become easier as you spiritually mature over the years. But, you know, it will be there to test you. You could think about it like a priest or a priestess that's testing you, saying, are you really ready for this? Are you really ready to go bigger? Are you really ready for more money? Did you really actually do all the financial planning to let more money in? Or are you just saying you want more money? So what's really cool about the ego structure is that it's always taunting us to really look at, okay, you think you're so spiritual. Well, how's your human life going? How's all of those really grounded steps that make me feel safe for you to move forward? Are those actually in place? So it's actually, you know, it's not, I think the ego just gets such a bad rep, but it's really another teacher for us in the spiritual journey. And yes, the spiritual journey, it's a sophisticated journey. There are so many voices within us that are all wanting our attention. The ego, all the inner children, the higher self, the different wounded aspects of us, the soul fragments, the oversoul, the angels, our spiritual guides. It's like there's so many voices to listen to. So who's the one that helps us negotiate all the rotating conversations that are happening? It's your higher self. If you keep asking your higher self to come in and negotiate on your behalf, you know, as the witness of who needs the healing next, or who needs the empowerment next, who needs the attention next, it's going to get easier. As far as your question about your beautiful friend who's on her awakening, bless her heart, I love that you were able to clearly point to just how much fear comes up in the spiritual journey. And it's just fear of change. And when we especially for women, when fear of change comes up, there's a lot of reactive behavior that's used as a coping strategy. It's a way to try to control the journey. But here's the thing with the Divine Feminine Christ Awakening, you don't get to control it. There's a divine plan that's way smarter than you. And so you can either go kicking and screaming with all your hard feelings about it, hand up, done it 1,000 times, or you can get on your knees and pray to the divinity within yourself to be graceful with you and to help you soften to what's calling you forward without taking it out on anybody else. And you know, most days, especially at that stage in the spiritual awakening, you're just going to be doing the best you can, and you're going to be practicing a lot of self-forgiveness along the way. So ultimately, with all of these words that I've been saying, the only word that you need to remember, which is a hyphenated word, is self-love. And you know, so many people poo-poo that as like, oh, it's so cliche or too simple for your spiritual journey. Oh yeah, you're never going to survive your spiritual journey without self-love. You can channel ascended masters and archangels and spaceships and star people and the center of the earth and whatever else you think is super cool. But if you don't have self-love, it's all just gongs clanging. Just so what? Because if you don't have the love for yourself, you can't receive those higher wisdoms. They're inapplicable. They're not even relevant. You know, and I say that from a place of my own journey. I went through a period towards the beginning of writing the Sophia Code, where I was listening to all the glorious wisdoms of Sophia and the Ascended Masters, and I was so miserable every day. And it was because I was so deeply struggling with loving myself. It was so hard to love myself after everything that I had survived in the first half of my life. I mean, it was just almost impossible. I mean, I would spend days at my altar just feeling so much darkness and self-hatred towards myself over things that I had no control over. That happened to me, and that's part of the healing of trauma, which I think a lot of people being called into leadership are processing right now. They're integrating, okay, I get it. I do actually need to address these unconscious wounds and wounding and traumas, because I can't actually move forward into my great joy for service and happiness and to lead from that place unless I can really drop in with these older wounds. And the only way to really be with your wounds is in the present moment. And the only way that you can be with that wound in the present moment is through self-love. Because we talk about this in the Sophia Code Foundational Curriculum, when you drop into the present moment, what are you dropping into? You're dropping into eternity. I really want everybody to feel this. When you're in the past or the future, you're in a time loop. You're in some idea about something that's already done or hasn't happened yet. But if you're in the present moment, you're in the truth of reality, which is eternity. And the only place to access your wounds, to heal any wounds of trauma that are holding you back from your leadership, even the vibration of competition, is to touch into it in the present moment, in the space of eternity. So people confuse touching their wounds with eternity. They think, if I touch this wound, the pain will never end. Not true. If you touch this wound, it's going to take about 20 minutes to a half hour for that wave of pain to move through. Maybe longer, but if you practice this long enough, it's about that much time. But if you're doing it in the space of eternity, what's happening is you're so present to the wound. Within all of eternity, you're like, this is never going to end. How do I get all the way through? The only way to get through that much touching into the pain is through the love. It's the pathway of I love you, I forgive you, I bless you, I accept you, I honor you, I'm here for you. Even if it takes all of eternity, we're going to do this together. Being able to say that to yourself within the present moment while touching into something, a deep wound like that, that's where you learn leadership. That's what you're here to teach everyone else. How can we be leading the way or showing the way if we're not willing to lead ourselves first? So, so many people get so afraid of leadership of like, oh, I won't know what to say. I won't know what to do. I never know what's going to happen before I get on this camera, or get on the phone for a class. I tried to control the process for a while. That was funny. I'd spend days preparing for a class, get on the phone, and then the center master would be like, that was cool. Now we're going to teach about this. you know, and part of that was the reason why I'm speaking to this is because when we speak about divine feminine Christ leadership, what we're talking about is being available through listening to what's arising in every present moment to share as our heart's wisdom. And if you're not willing to spend time with your own heart and be in the truth of your own heart's journey, you're not going to actually be able to lead from that space. If you are willing to be in the present moment with your heart and make that your daily practice, you're going to be leading in ways that you probably aren't even recognizing right now. But our prayer for everyone in this call is that they're really going to start honoring and recognizing how much they're already leading through their embodiment of their higher self.